Check out my new channel. It's called Synergy 2. The screenplay is where dialogue is written. It documents the people, places, and things that make up the film we will see.
Hello. Yes, this is Harold Angel. Yep, middle initial R, just like in a phone book.
It's only the beginning of ideas that have yet to make it through production. It is a book, a novelization, that has yet materialized into an audio-visual presentation. It takes talent to fill the roles of characters, but it's the director who sets the tone, piecing together the many elements to tell the story. Not everything in the script will make it to the final cut, what we see in the theatrical release. Some scenes will be omitted, even filmed but dropped on the cutting room floor. This is done either for efficiency or economic reasons. Still, it gives us insight into a larger world that we could have had. I'll go over several locations mentioned in Angel Heart's early draft of the script, but we didn't get a chance to visit. Kindly consider leaving a like, share, or subscribe if you enjoy this video. Harry Angel's Office Staircase. The film gives a disturbing and unsettling opening, with a frozen, hellish look of New York City, where stiffs, as described in the script, are found around every corner, because, as Louis Cypher explained, death is everywhere these days. What the film didn't come out and tell you is the woman's murder was in the alley around the corner of Harry Angel's office, when the supposed newspaper stand vendor, Siley, calls out Harry as we hear in the film. He's telling Angel about the body that's still there by morning. Harry takes the stairs to his office and bumps into a scruffy lady putting a mop to the floor. This sort of rankles Angel as he asks why she's going through the trouble. The scruffy lady named Mrs. Zelkin answered to clean up the blood of a cat found on the stairs. Zelkin proceeds to say she threw its body away in the trash. Harry, not one who approves that method of disposing animals, finds only a bloody newspaper in the bin. Maybe it ran away, Harry suggests. But then Mrs. Zelkin shares that the cat had its legs removed. Maybe it was this cat. Who would be responsible for this cruel and evil act? Those paying attention will notice during the opening credits a lone man walking with his cane. If you were one of the few to associate him with Cypher, you'd be correct. And it may be the only clue left in the film that links one with the other. The script has Mrs. Zelkin volunteer her theory who would have been responsible, and she says it's the devil's work, or communists. Likely due to Epiphany's Obia's chicken sacrifice, many other references of animal cruelty mentioned in the script were omitted from the film, and I think it was too early to introduce the idea of the occult for a story originating as gumshoe detective mystery. But what we can glean is that Louis Cypher discovered Angel's whereabouts the night before his meeting with him and Winesap. No sooner than he sees the body, Angel's phone rings off the hook. Downtown newspaper stand. Though we don't get to visit, the script suggests Harry was waving to Siley and his newspaper stand. Siley worked out of a small shelter, offering newspapers, packs of Camels, the cigarette, not the animal, and coffee. He's described as someone with a round face, cold breath, wearing earmuffs. Harry visits Siley twice in the script for some exposition and history lessons. The working draft of the script gave Siley the first spoken line. He's there to tell Harry his phone's been ringing off the hook, tells him about the body in the nearby alley, and look out for communists. Later in the script, Siley makes follow-up appearances, telling Harry about the history of Pastor John and how he made money buying a hotel, all in cash. What's most interesting, it was Siley who told Angel that Cypher was waiting for him in an Italian coffee shop. But in the film, he's not seen and only heard off camera. While we could argue there was not a newspaper stand to be seen, the first line of dialogue does come from a man, calling out to Harry as the sounds of a phone ring bleeds in. This is the only reference to Siley that stuck. After the dead body of a woman in the alley has already been established, Siley isn't needed later. His backstory about Pastor John and the Kingdom Mission is buried, and Harry finds his way to Cypher in the Italian cafe without him. Greenwich Village. While the final edit shows Harry Angel living somewhere, the script indicates Harry lives in a loft in Greenwich Village. Escorting Connie there, we would have heard a poem being recited. On the floor, a naked model has white plaster splashed on her by a crew cut artist. Another girl is praying on a Muslim prayer mat. Harry waits for her to finish, walks through on his way to the loft adjoining. Harry would say to her, "By the way, Mecca's that way. You were praying to Yonkers." We would have seen immediately next a baggy sweater beatnik reading a poem about the atom bomb and sex to a dozen acolytes, giving him their entire attention. This is where Harry gestures to Connie to follow him up to his place to discuss the case. In retrospective, the scripted visuals may not have been necessary, as we already have many examples of religion, or, better phrased, ceremonial customs that many embrace or are shackled to. The Wax Museum. The film's Coney Island scene was very faithful to the original draft of the script. Izzy and Bo follow the screenplay almost word by word. However, it does leave out a couple of scenes. After the shot underneath the boardwalk with its gnawing rats, it cuts away to an interior shot of a woman dead, lying on bed sheets splattered with blood. A fat man stares at her from above, with his pale gray eyes filled with fear and frozen in time. The next scene would have revealed Harry Angel had walked into a wax museum, with many figures in violent poses, including the wax figure of Fatty Arbuckle over the figure of Virginia Rappe. Harry asks the arcade man where he can find Madame Zora's pitch. The arcade man sends him to Izzy. The arcade man would be briefly mentioned in the film when Angel approaches Izzy on the beach. The La Biche Museum. In the film, we see Harry follow Margaret Cruzar onto a streetcar. When Margaret steps off, there is a jump cut to her meeting Angel for a fortune-telling appointment at her place. We never see exactly where she's headed, although by the transition, we could infer she returned home. But the script has more to the story. We learn Margaret was headed into a large Louisiana house, described as a grand folly. Angel, following her from a distance, steps into a house near him across the street. As soon as Harry walks inside, he is greeted by Eunice, a tubby woman in heavy makeup, and Harry discovers he stepped inside a museum. What makes this entry from the script very different from the film is Harry was following Margaret after his appointment. We assume this is where Margaret ran to Daddy Cruzar to tell him about Johnny Favorite. This unnecessary yet quaint scene is reminiscent of the source material, Falling Angel by William Yortzberg. Harry Angel is a private detective who infiltrates places under false pretenses. He's not only tailing Margaret, but happens to squeeze more personal information about Margaret from Eunice. In our minds at least, we have an idea what Margaret did soon after Harry left her place. The salt mines. After Harry and Epiphany do things in the eyes of God that they shouldn't have, Harry gets dressed. He leaves Epiphany sleeping in the bed as he drives out to the Atchafalaya swamp. Harry's car speeds through the flooded swamp roads like a speedboat. The swamp at night, steamy, creepy. Harry stops his car, walks to the side of the water, across on the other bank. Parked cars, lights out. He climbs on a flat-bottomed boat. one of the many moored at the side. He punts across, climbs the bank, muddies his trousers once more. Harry walks across what looks like snow. He touches it to his lips. Salt. He enters the large entrance to the mine. What Harry sees inside are flickering lights, changing shadows, and naked bodies. The images are similar to Harry's daymare, except he sees a vision of Ethan Cruzar, a flashing knife, and a sacrifice. They are terrible visions, and a nightmare Harry wakes up from with his hand around Epiphany's throat. All of this, minus Ethan Cruzar, was intertwined into Harry's session with Epiphany in the film seen during his daymare fantasy. The courtyard at the Cruzars. The film never really explained how or why Ethan Cruzar sent his henchmen after Harry. We just assumed Ethan was this powerful, influential, if not somewhat corrupt figure. And somewhere off-screen, Margaret told him about Harry. You probably never wondered if anything happened between Stern and Deimos' second visit and Harry headbutting one of Cruzar's goons. Well, plenty had. Written in the script, Harry went looking for Ethan Cruzar soon after leaving his room. He visits Cruzar's home and gets blocked by the butler, who tells Harry he's at Jettaville looking at his racehorses. This was exactly where Harry caught up with Cruzar later. Late in the film, Angel just finds Cruzar. Pretty lucky considering Cruzar owned half of Louisiana. The script in this unused scene does mention something that was in the back of the mind of many. Angel does question the weird lack of mourning, considering Margaret was horribly murdered. That was a list of locations found in the script but omitted from the film. Let me know in the comments below, what location would you want to have seen included? And a shout out to Alabama Wyatt for his super thanks. I couldn't have done this without all of you supporting this channel. This is Mr. G of Synergy saying, a shot of gin does wonders for an acid stomach. Check out other videos on the channel. Thanks for watching.